President Biden exploiting another tragedy with an executive order. Joining us, our favorite attorney, Mike Davis from the Article 3 Project. And I don't know if you've had much of a time to look over this, Mike, but generally, what can the average person do to respond to this when in my view anyway, this is unconstitutional?
Yeah, I mean, we have to remember that the Democrats are going to exploit every tragedy they can to promote their end game, and their end game is to disarm law-abiding Americans. And they want to disarm law-abiding Americans because it's easier to control the population if Americans are disarmed. That's the whole point of the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment is not to protect. It's not a hunting license.
Right.
It is to protect us from government tyranny and government breakdown. And we've seen a lot of that over the last 3 years with COVIDians shutting down society over a virus from which more than 99% of us will recover. We've seen across the world, in Canada and Australia, places where they have strict gun control, it's very easy for the government to control their population when they're not armed. In America, that's what's stopping the government from trying to run us over. That's what's stopping BLM and Antifa from the breakdown of government, from these violent mobs from coming after us. So you have to remember, everything Democrats do on gun control is in furtherance of their goal to disarm Americans. And so you have to look at each one of these executive orders, each one of these regulations, each one of these statutes with that in mind. I think this is all unconstitutional, what they're doing. I think this should be struck down. This is clearly trying to burden people's Second Amendment right and 14th Amendment rights to self-defense, including the right to keep and bear arms, both in their homes and in public.
So, we've talked in the past about the Supreme Court decision, the New York Rifle and Pistol Association versus Bruin. And it seems like states are ignoring that now. New York's doing whatever they want. And now it looks like our federal government basically is just ignoring that even happened, and just more stuff coming out that's going to turn our good, moral, sane, sober, law-abiding citizens into felons.
Yeah, I mean, we saw with the Heller case, I think it was back in 2008, that we have an individual right to keep and bear arms under the Constitution. You had the McDonald case, I think that was in 2012, that said that 2010 or 2012, I can't remember the date, I can look it up, but said that that applies to the states as well. So we have a Second Amendment right as it relates to the federal government. We have a 14th Amendment right as it relates to the states. And under the Bruin decision, states we have a right to publicly carry firearms, and states cannot put an undue burden on that. They can't make us prove to them why we're worthy of exercising our Second Amendment rights. It's the state's burden to prove why we're not worthy, right? It's not our affirmative obligation to hire lawyers and hire lobbyists to exercise our God-given natural right to keep and bear arms, as guaranteed by the Second and 14th Amendments. So, we saw with the Bruin decision, there are 4 solid votes on these on striking down these gun laws, these anti-gun laws. Mm-hmm. You saw Chief Justice Roberts and Justice Kavanaugh write a concurring opinion in the Bruin case saying that there are permissible regulations under their view. There are permissible regulations of guns under the Constitution. So that's what needs to be litigated. What is permissible, what's not.
So your old boss, Senator Grassley, has been, writing letters to the ATF and FBI, asking for more information, asking for a response. And it just seems our 3-letter agencies are unresponsive. It feels, they appear to be answerable to nobody.
Yeah, I mean, that's the problem. I mean, you have Barack Obama putting out executive orders on guns. So you have to step back and ask some questions. Look at the Constitution. Where does the Constitution give the federal government, especially the president, the power to legislate gun control? It doesn't. And how does the president have the power to legislate? That has to go through both houses of Congress and be signed by the president. And how do these agencies, as you just said, John, think they have this power to this all-consuming power to not only regulate gun control, which they don't have the power to do, but to have the legislative power to make up these rules, the executive power to enforce these rules, and then the judicial power to adjudicate disputes related to these rules. They don't have this power. And you're seeing that the Biden administration, what they're trying to do is they're trying to use red flag laws, they're trying to use background check laws, they're trying to make it impossible for people to keep and bear arms, to own guns in their homes or to carry them in public. And that is their goal.
It's easy for those of us like yourself that are, pro-Constitution to keep saying, rah, 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 we have the Constitution. But I can tell you from visiting with people, the average citizen is starting to feel beat down. Like, what more can we do? In Iowa, we just passed this protection of the Second Amendment in the Iowa Constitution. And now this stuff's piling on top. Are you worried at all that the average citizen is just going to say, you know what, I give up. I can't fight this anymore.
Well, I don't think individual citizens should have the responsibility here to have to shoulder the cost and of the litigation and fight these things. I think that the state attorneys general need to step up and file lawsuits against the federal government on behalf of their citizens back in their states. And I know the Iowa Attorney General, the new Republican Iowa Attorney General Byrd, has been fantastic on this. And that's the key, the state attorneys general filing federal lawsuits to hold the Biden administration accountable. And they're doing it on many fronts. They're doing it on the illegal immigration front. They're doing it on the big tech front. They're doing it on many fronts. And so the state AGs are that should be the tip of the spear here to file lawsuits against the Biden administration. I do think that you're going to have a sympathetic federal judiciary on many of these lawsuits.
That's good. And our new AG Byrd, as you mentioned, she'll be talking with me on Monday. So appreciate that. Mike, stay in the fight. Keep up the good work. We appreciate everything you're doing on multiple platforms out there. And for folks that want to follow you, what's the best route?
Article3project.org, article number 3project.org. And then on Twitter, Getter Truth, it's at article3project, at article number 3project. And my personal is MRDDMIA, Michael R. Davis, Des Moines, Iowa, where I'm from. So good to talk with you, John.
You bet. Des Moines' own Mike Davis, thank you very much. We'll be in touch soon.
Thank you.